Can you just tell about yourself a little bit, like what you do and like a brief about yourself?
Sure. So my name's Steve Safranek. Full time, I'm currently a licensed and certified personal trainer at one of the facilities here in Omaha, Nebraska called Lifetime Fitness.
Mm.
I'm also one of the yoga teachers as well too. I've been practicing yoga for about 8.5 years and teaching for 3. And then along with one of my teachers, I'm also one of the teacher trainers where we put yoga students through a 4-month teacher training process so they can learn that role. Um, Married to my wife Zara for the last 18 years, and we have 2 wonderful kids. Chase is 16, and Sage will be 13 in a few months. And I was born and raised in Omaha. Been here my whole life. Bounced around for a few careers as of late, and then recently released my first book, "The Shit No One Wants to Hear," self-published book, and yeah, and here I'm just on my own journey, going through life.
That's amazing. And yeah, you talked about your book. So like, what's your journey about your book? Like, why did you write that book?
So I would say if we've alluded to a little bit, practice of yoga can change your life if you want it to or need it to. Uh, I think my own journey started the first time I walked into a yoga studio, and I had no idea that something was starting or a journey was beginning until probably 5 years after.
Mhm.
Um, and throughout that process, I started really to develop my own daily practices of reading and journaling and
Mhm.
meditation and yoga and breath work and all of the things more from that holistic side of things. And through journaling, most specifically, and reading, I started to just have some contrarian views around compared to what we have just in society as a whole
Mhm.
around education or around nutrition and fitness and health. And, here in America, we always have this it's the American dream. And it's you go to school, you go to college, and then you get married, and then you have kids, and you have the house, and you just save for retirement, and you just live until this arbitrary age, and then you retire, and then you have your golden years where you just relax and do nothing, and then one day you die. And that's kind of this perfect paradigm of how we all have these thoughts around everything: religion, politics, social issues. And I think my journey of yoga and reading and writing has just started, it forced me to start thinking about things differently. Not that everyone else was wrong and I was right. It was more of, I just, instead of not thinking for myself and not questioning, I just started to think. And I started to have all of these thoughts that went against the mainstream. And from the book, and all of the chapters in the book are one of those themes. It's we have to be more selfish so we can take care of others. And almost no one in life has any clue what they're doing.
Mhm.
Most of us just fake it or pretend or don't even know that we don't know what we're doing. um, and how you have to have purpose and meaning in life. It can't just be work, retire, die. There's got to be something more there. So, but when these ideas came up, I started journaling about them. And then I came to this realization. It's like, well, I should be writing a book. I'm like, well, who am I? No, I'm not famous. I have no one of no. I've never been never lived outside of my home state. I don't have this, I'm a white male, like born in the Catholic Church. Like my life experience is so limited and narrow. Who am I? Why would anyone rather me read anything that I've written? But I kept fighting this urge and fighting this urge. And I dedicate the book to our daughter, Sage. We call her Lonnie Girl because she's like most women, wise beyond her years. She's like a 40-year-old woman and she's 12.
Mhm.
And we were talking, and I don't remember to this day how it was brought up, but we were talking about some of these things. And she said, Dad, you should write a book. And that's all it took. It was like I was waiting for the universe to insert itself, and it did it through our daughter. And when she said it, I was like, okay. So I would say that most satisfying part about the book is I went into it with one singular intent, and it was to simply write the book for the experience. That's it. That's it. It's not about trying to make it a bestseller. I mean, thankful to you, people like you who have read it and reached out and we're promoting it this way. But one, not famous or of note, but then, you know, it's not through Penguin Publishing, right? It's self-published. So we have to do things like this to get the word out there. But I did it just to write it,
Mhm.
and I didn't tell a single person about it. So when I was writing, the only people that knew were my wife and our two kids. That's
Mhm.
it. So I didn't tell anyone, no mentors, no teachers, no friends, no anyone. I just wrote it. And then when it was done, I reached out to people. I'm like, okay, now what do I do? So it was a very rewarding and satisfying experience being able to write the book.
Yeah, that's a seriously lovely story that your daughter told you, and then you wrote a book. That's such a like, loving story, and it's beautiful. And
Yeah,
like,
thank you.
yeah, and like when you were writing books, so what was your like schedule looked like when you were writing your book? Like, how did you manage your work life and your writing?
Sure. So there was most certainly not a schedule. It was so when I was writing the book, I was still a district manager for a food distributor here. Um, so my schedule was kind of all over the place, and combine that with a teaching schedule for yoga. You
Mhm.
know, some days I didn't have to start working until 9 a.m. and then there were other days to where I had to teach a class at 5:30 a.m. and then go right into work. So I would say, to sum it up, I wrote as much as I could whenever I could. So there were times to where I get up at I'm pretty like a 4 a.m., 4:30 a.m. wake up person throughout the week, just because of having two early morning classes and then, you know, my morning routine and daily routine of meditation, breath work, journaling. I tend to do, I'm very, if you're familiar with any yoga and Ayurvedic principles, I'm sure you are, but the doshas, I'm very pitta. So pitta's early in the morning at 2 to 6 a.m.
Mhm.
And that seems, whether it's breath work, meditation, journaling, reading, writing, I do my best work in the morning when it's 4:30 and no one else is up. So sometimes I'd get up at 4:30, I'd have a cup of coffee and I would just write. Sometimes it was 500 words, sometimes it was 1,000, sometimes it was 2,000. And then there were other times to where I would not write until 7 o'clock at night after we're home and the kids are doing homework. Sometimes it was I'd have nothing to do on a Saturday and I would get up early and I would spend 4 hours writing. So it was just little by little, but over 6 months, it was almost nearly daily, whether it was 500 words or 2,500 words. And I just kept writing and you just chipped away and chipped away. And it was much more of that consistency versus I can't do it because it's not 4:30 in the morning. So, and then as ideas would come up, as thoughts would come up, you know, I
Mhm.
would put a note in my phone or take a picture of something or journal about it, and then I would go back and reference it. So it was just, it wasn't a consistent schedule. It was whenever I could, because I still, you know, had a full-time career at the time. I was already teaching, we were already training. So it was just a matter of when I could do it.
And like how much time it took you to write the whole book, like to complete the book?
So it took me 6 months to write it, and then it was another 4.5 months to edit.
Okay.
So it was roughly 10 and a half month process. And then after that, then it was a matter of designing, you know, working with someone on the cover and the formatting and things like that. And that's a challenging, it's a very cool and creative learning process when you do it self-published. Thank God for Amazon. Their system is amazingly easy and efficient, especially for someone who doesn't have that creative background in that regard, but plenty of people that are there to reach out to. So it was a roughly 10 and a half month process. And it's very interesting when I talk to people about this. Writing the book was not difficult. Writing was the easy part for some reason. And I think it goes back to all the practice we've talked about: yoga, meditation, breath work, reading, journaling, most specifically. I already had kind of the idea or the theme or the paradigm and the words to be able to access it. Um, that's where the meditation and comes into play, is accessing that creative center. The hard part was editing, and I realized, and that was a humbling experience, having somebody come back and essentially, and I'm self-critical to a fault, very analytical, and I can be overly sensitive to feedback, although I know that it's needed and good, not defensive, but it's when there's no context or nuances, you know, all of the communication is done through an email or through a Google note of, okay, this is highlighted and then change this and this. And every time I got the feedback or that there was, this needed to be rewritten or this needed to be changed or this is this and that and that, it was, oh my God, I don't know how to write.
Mhm.
Like, wow, this is hard. And so that was a humbling experience, that editing process. I mean, I'd say I went through roughly 6 drafts or so.
Hey, that's like that's a kind of a process, whole process that we have to went through when we are writing a book. Then how does the publishing part goes on? Like how does books get published?
So I can only experience or speak from my own experience with self-publishing and through Amazon. It's very cool. Like you don't, I mean, it's almost scary how simple it is. Anyone can write anything and then just create an account through their publishing site. It's KDP Publishing.
Mhm.
Um, and you could just upload any manuscript without editing, without proofreading, without formatting, and just publish it. So it's not like it has to go through some extensive review process of someone else. It's all an algorithm. So you could literally upload something with no spell check and no formatting, no sentence structure, no editing, and say it's published. But then it's a matter of you have to promote it, right? Through social media, as we're doing, and thankful again for people like you who are helping with this. So it's literally, if you can have a social media account, if you know how to send an email with an attachment or edit a Google Doc, anyone can do it. You just literally have to follow the instructions and read. So it's almost too simple for someone to understand without having gone through it.
That's
And then
amazing.
then it's there and it's published, and then someone just searches your title of your book and it's there. Then they have their system wherever the warehouse is at, and when a book is ordered, they print it. You upload your cover, you upload the manuscript. You have to purchase what's called an international book serial number, something like that. So there's a little bit of a cost there, so it can be assigned to the book, so it's unique. So it's tied to that as a serial number in terms of, you know, being purchased, being shipped, and then your royalties coming to the book. So there is a little bit of extra work on that end, and that's what took another month because not having gone through this. But it is a very efficient and cool process for someone who can't get to a publisher.
Yeah, they just have to take care of the marketing part, but the like publishing part can be handled by Amazon as well. So do you have any advice or suggestion for someone who wants to write a book, but they are just thinking of writing a book, they are a beginner, and like people like me, I also want to write a book,
Sure,
but just we just need some kind of suggestion you can give that will
sure,
be helpful to them and also.
sure. My suggestion would be this: if you want to write a book, I would attempt to figure out what it is that you're going to talk about. That's a weird thing to say, right? It's kind of like, well, duh, of course, but it has to be very specific. So my overall theme, when people ask me, well, what is the book about? My the paradigm that I was operating in, or my thought process was, okay, for number one, it's I'm no one of note or of fame and don't have I when I say I don't have life experience, I mean that I was not born in the US and then now moved to India, right? Or vice versa.
Mm,
I was not a soldier. I don't have PTSD. There wasn't any type of,
mm,
you know, near death experience, right? Or so I've been very blessed and grateful, but not a lot of unique experience. So it was, well, what is going to separate me or my book from everyone else? And it's what we talked about. It was these concepts of no one is talking about this thing in this way, right? And it's, I would say the one chapter that sums up this whole paradigm is, I think it's chapter 3. Social media and the news are not the problem. You are. Because even the most notable of figures that have the best podcasts or the best social media following will always fall into this trap of social media is toxic. And I always use his as an example because he has the biggest podcast, Joe Rogan, his podcast. He goes to the depths of the earth talking about how don't read the comments, and it's so toxic, and it's a dumpster fire, and Twitter's a cesspool. Even he falls into this trap of social media is a tool. I mean, we are here right now because of social media. Yeah. Because I promoted a book on social media, hashtags, you find me, you help promote the book. Now we're on a podcast, literally on the opposite sides of the world. And then it's going to get onto one of the biggest social media platforms, YouTube. Social media is a tool, right? It depends on how you utilize that tool.
Yeah.
So the analogy I always give is, if you're only using a hammer to try to kill a mosquito, you may kill that mosquito with that hammer, but you're going to cause a lot of damage. You're going to have holes in your wall. You're probably going to hurt yourself, rather than using that hammer for its intended purposes to hammer the nail into a piece of wood. If you're only using social media to promote propaganda and negativity and toxicity, or only looking at boobs and butts, or you're only trolling people about sports, or sending negative messages towards, I mean, in your part of the world, you experience this, like the issues with Uyghur Muslims in China. And if you're only using to promote things like that, or the issue with the refugees between Bangladesh and the other in India, right? And it's like all of these things, like if that's all you're doing, you're missing out on the beautiful part of this connectivity and this wisdom, right? So I go back to figure out what your theme of that overall book wants to be. So my theme was everything in your faults that is, or excuse me, everything that is probably wrong in your life is most likely your fault. And it's okay. And there's a path out to fix this. You know, the Four Noble Truths from Buddha, the last one is, there is a way forward. It doesn't, yes, life is suffering, but we cause it. It's our ignorance, it's our expectations, but there is a way out. So it is not, and I don't know if you're familiar with David Goggins at all.
Yeah.
Do you know Dave? So
Can't Hurt Me, the book. Yeah.
Okay, so love the message and love the intent, but I don't subscribe to that mentality anymore. But I was also an athlete in my background. So it is not the David Goggins approach, where it is suck it up, sleep when you're dead, just keep going, keep grinding, keep going. But it is also not Eckhart Tolle, where everything is peace and love and rainbows and lollipops and just manifest happiness. It's right in the middle. It is, yep, life can be difficult. Yep, you're going to succeed. Yep, you're also going to fail. And the journey is not just walking this beautiful mountain path up to the top of Kilimanjaro. It is, you're crawling in the mud sometimes, and it's dark and it's freezing and you're naked. So it's everything that may have an issue with, you may be the cause of it. Look yourself in the mirror, and how do we fix it? So figure out the theme of that book. What is the one message you want to get across? That's the first thing. And the second thing would be, I can't emphasize enough the power of journaling. That's where I got I understood that, oh, I guess I do have the ability to write. And now I'm kind of dabbling in this poetry paradigm of some personal things that I'm navigating through and understanding, like going back in my past. So writing those, you can just work through those things of journaling, and just journaling does not have to be, okay, what am I writing about today? Sometimes it is, here's your pages. What's there? I have no idea. Start writing. Julia Cameron has an amazing book for this called The Artist's Way. And it's really geared towards getting rid of writer's block. And her process is called Pages. And it is just, you sit down every morning and you write on your pages, whatever is there. If you have nothing there, you start with, I have nothing. Nothing's upstairs, and you just keep writing. It can be incoherent, it can be gibberish, it can make no sense, but you just keep writing, and it's unclogging, and eventually sentences start to formulate. So journaling, and figure out what the theme of what your theme is going to be of that book. And then, yeah, it can be the same, but how is it different? Right? I mean, think about all the leadership books that are out there. Everyone has its own unique perspective because of anecdotal experiences or because of the sub point that you're trying to make.
Yeah. So if you sum up it in, um, so you mean that we should first of all journal, and with journal, what happens with me is that I used to journal, but I just journal for 3-4 days, and then I keep doing something other thing, or something come up, and then I like forget that habit, and then I like go on another habit. Okay, so that is very difficult to be consistent on journaling for me.
Sure.
And one thing that you said, it's very, very true that when I journal, when I write anything that comes into into my mind, what happens is like I feel so relaxed, I feel so good, I feel like, yeah, I have done something. I have done some kind of a mental work, and some kind of a physical work also I have done. So that is very relaxing, that is very peaceful, and the thoughts gets very calm, and like it really works, and you will see the effects even just after writing a page, right? So that is really, really an amazing habit if you can do it consistently, right?
Totally. And here's the thing too. Um, and I mentioned this in a roundabout ways in a few different chapters of the book. You know, we're having this conversation so we can both learn, right? That's my experience. That doesn't mean you have to follow those two pieces of advice to write a book. It may not work for you. To your
Yeah,
point, you may figure out. I mean, I didn't seek out and then ask anyone, how do I write a book? I didn't Google, how do I write a book? It just organically unfolded. So I'm guessing you're familiar with Simon Sinek. Find your why, start with
yeah, yeah,
why.
yeah.
Right? Very influential part of this, doing that work in find your why and cultivating what that is. So going back to that question, like, how do you write a book? I think, like everything, we have to go to the root cause, right? It can't just be, I'm overweight, go to doctor, here's a pill. Follow Ayurvedic principles, right? It's food is thy medicine, right? Disease enters through the mouth. The words you say and the words you take in, also the food, right?
Yeah.
What is the root cause? It can't just be the pill. It's what are you eating? How are you sleeping? What is your practice like? It might go even further than that. It's find your why. Cultivate your why first. And mine, as I mentioned in the book, I figured this out some number of years ago, and it still reigns true. I haven't needed to tweak it yet. My personal why is to inspire people to find their self-awareness so they can learn, grow, and evolve to find their joy. Me, it's to help. It is to give back. It is to contribute positively. So for me, it was, how else can I do this other than yoga and personal training? It's conversations with people. It was writing a book. So then what am I going to offer that is different in that book? So maybe it's finding your why first, and it can be as simple as buy Simon Sinek stuff, as if he needs any more promotion, right? But that way, now everything that I do is not about money. Yes, we all need it. We all have bills to pay. But when it is about the experience and it is about giving back and it's about helping, if you're doing what you love to do, the money will follow. The money will be there. It's not about chasing that money. It's about chasing your why.
And one more question I have is like, what gets you motivated and passionate in life? Like, what's your why and what's your passion?
So I'll restate, my why is to inspire, to help find people their self-awareness so they can learn, grow, and evolve to find their joy. Me, it's my why is to help people find their why. So I would say my passion right now is around teaching. It is about, I sum up the book in the last chapter of my 3 rules. It is contribute, it is to be content, and don't be a dick. Be kind. And it's like, I really do feel that if you follow those principles, you are leaving a legacy of positivity and contributing. And it is the contribute means, are you teaching your children to be mature, responsible adults? Are you teaching them to understand and be open-minded and tolerant of others? And it is not us versus them. You are not bad because you have brown skin and brown hair on the other side of the world. You are a human just as if I am a human. And you're not better because you're a male, Chase, my son. And you are not weaker because you are a female, Sage, our daughter. The being content is understanding that life is a journey. Like, you're never going to win. You're never going to lose. You're going to fail 100 times every time you succeed. That's part of the process. And I think I just wrote this morning and posted this. There is no flag atop of the mountain in which you're going to reach that says happiness. I have made it. It is something always falls off. Something always happens. It is a constant, perpetual journey. And recognizing that and being content with who you are, what you are, where you're at, what you're doing, and doing it for the right reasons. And then the last thing is to be kind. It's like, we're all going through things. Everyone has trauma. Everyone has failures. Everyone has some deep, dark thing. Everyone's holding on to something. Everyone needs someone else. Like, no one heals by themselves. No one gets through anything by themselves. And we all struggle. I think chapter 2 is no one has a clue on what they're doing. And I believe that to an extent. We're all figuring this thing out as we go. So my passion is just to try and help and to inspire others and to teach, regardless of what that is. And right now it's through yoga, and it's through training, and it is through writing.
That's so awesome, because the thing you said about being kind, I also feel the same, that everyone is going through something. Everyone, if you are a human, you are going through something. Everyone has some kind of past, they have some kind of trauma, some kind of bad things have happened to them, and because of that they are the way they are right now. So why not just be kind and just like make the world a better place by just being kind, just like being a good person, right?
So, and many people don't ever get there because we have not ever created our own self-awareness. And we just, I reference this whole theme of the book. It's, we go through school, our education stops, whether it's high school or college or a doctorate, and we stop learning and we stop evolving, we stop growing. We never unlearn. And then if we're have things that we've never dealt with, never addressed, never had a plant medicine journey, never gone through therapy, never found a practice like yoga or pranayama or meditation or Tai Chi or Ayurveda or anything else. I mean, your practice can be knitting. Your practice can be working with the elderly in homes. It's whatever. There's like this catalyst that has to start somewhere. For me, it was yoga. For someone else, it can be anything else. It could be a near-death experience. It can be a severe life-altering event where it was, life or death. So self-awareness is the first key, but you have to find something that gets that started. And that's the struggle for most people.
Yeah, and most people lie to themselves. Like, they are not ready to see the truth. They are just like telling themselves the lies that, I don't know, like they are not self-aware. That's why they are so much in the lie, and they are just trying to be someone else that they are not. And this happens a lot. Like, I have seen a lot of people who are just moving ahead, but they do not know. Like, they are lying to themselves, and this happens.
Right? You're 100% right. And that's one of the underlining themes of the whole book is it's that. It's we're lying to ourselves because we've never stopped, paused, got out of the box and go, wait a minute, I'm in control. And that, I feel, is one of the biggest roadblocks. It's when there's sometimes something will happen and people recognize that they have control over their lives.
Yeah.
And this scares many people
Yeah, that it's
because I don't want to be in control, because that means I have the power to change. And when we approach change, we get really scared because we don't know what lies ahead.
yeah.
We
You
don't
fear the
can't
unknown.
see
Yeah.
we can't see over the hill. We don't know what it's going to be. We know what we have now. And even if it's dark and it's depression and it's despair and it's drugs and alcohol, we know that, even though we know it might not be right, but it's familiar. This change thing, when we decide that we have self agency and we are in control and we can move forward and change our lives, we don't want to go there. One, because it's because of change. We fear the unknown. But the second thing is because it's going to be hard and it's going to be brutal. And it is so scary for some people. We never get there. And some people are content with who they are and where they're at. Great, great. And if you never want to evolve or be a different version of yourself or contribute, that's fine. That's your life. You can choose to do that. But then we never get to that full realization on what we are capable of.
Yeah, that's true. And you talked about journaling and yoga and everything. So how does your morning routine looks like? Like, what does
Sure.
it have? Yeah.
If I have, my morning routine is, I mean, because of, sometimes I'll have a few days a week, I will teach a 5:30 a.m. class. So sometimes my morning routine is I get up and I go teach. And
Mhm.
then all those practices of breath work and meditation and journaling, all of the and reading will be done later in the day, or like late right after my class. But if I like this morning, if I wasn't doing this podcast with you, I would have gotten up and I would have had a cup of coffee. And then the first thing I would have done is I would have just checked email and messages in case there was something I need to follow up on. And then I would have journaled,
Mhm.
and then I would have done breath work, and then I would meditate. And my breath work can vary. Typically, it's just going to be basic pranayama stuff. It's going to be 1 to 3 minutes. It can be box breathing, it can be physiological sigh. Lately, I've been doing a lot of breath of fire work, intense breath work with some Uddiyana Bandha energy locks, some holds. And then meditation is typically Vipassana. So just focusing on your breath in and out, the traditional old school way. That's how I was taught. But if I have a poor night of sleep, I'll do Yoga Nidra. So Kamini Desai, the daughter of Amrit Desai, who brought Yoga Nidra from India over to the West, has an app, I Am Yoga Nidra. So it's a few dollars a month for a subscription. And she has 6 to 8 different protocols. So sometimes I will do Yoga Nidra as well, just for non-sleep rest. And then I will read. And sometimes it's 15 minutes, sometimes it's 2 hours. That would be a morning routine if I don't have anything to do right away or in control. And that's what that looks like.
I have two questions in this. First of all, is that can you talk about the advantages of yoga or say breath work and beatboxing and the things that you do? Can you talk about the advantages so that people know that it is miraculous if you practice that kind of a thing?
Sure,
So,
sure.
yeah.
Yeah, yoga. I mean, it's such an interesting experience for me being born and raised in America, right? Because now we are seeing, I mean, yoga has been pretty prevalent here for, let's call it the last 120 years or so. But if you don't have a yoga background here, or if you don't have a breath work practice here, some people think that like, oh, this is very new. And this is this new thing. It's this new paradigm. And I tell people all the time, when you see stuff about yoga on social media or breath work or now ice baths, that I say the ancients are laughing at us, because these practices have been around for at least 5,000 years that we're aware of, right? And we know this because of the Upanishads and the Vedic texts. They're there. They've mentioned these, and those are 3,400 plus years old. So the advantage of yoga to me, because it's, if you practice the lineage of Ashtanga yoga, there's so many people don't realize, well, breath work is yoga and meditation is yoga. And also being kind The yamas are yoga. The niyamas and the observances and the restraints are yoga. So I was like, if you're giving back, if you're donating your time, if you are not contributing to a toxic environment and you are not promoting gossip and propaganda, you're practicing yoga. It's not, excuse me, it's not just the asanas, it's not just the pose. So we preach a lot here where if you're only doing the poses on the mat, you're practicing roughly 12% of yoga. That's just one part. That's the easy part. So I think what yoga can be for people is a spiritual awakening if you choose to accept it and to be vulnerable. And if you don't want that or don't need that, then you don't have to. It's a great workout, especially if you're doing hot yoga. It's fast, it's intense, you're sweating, you're detoxing. You're most certainly feeling better. You have all of your endocrine system turning on. So all of your feel good chemicals are being released. So that's the first step. But if you practice it and you enjoy it and you start to make the connection on how it's making you feel, you can start to go down this path of, oh, there's a lot to this, of vulnerability. And if you're in a yoga class and you start crying because of something, like some people get scared at that. And it's like, no, go there, go there.
Yeah.
Yeah, don't run from that. Tap into that. So the advantages of yoga are, I think it can be a catalyst for change in people's life, regardless of what the change may need to be or why. And it can be dealing with severe trauma that's happened with you in the past. It can be discovering trauma that was there that you didn't realize was trauma and how it's affecting you. Or it can just be a navigation of how you want to better improve your life and be a better version of yourself. And that all then goes into breath work. So breath work, I mean, most people just simply do not breathe correctly. And if you're not breathing through your nose, we're not breathing correctly. This is evolved for this reason. James Nestor has an amazing book that he released just a few years ago called Breath, yellow cover. And it's very insightful because it does a great job of going into the weeds around the science of what breathwork is really doing to our brain and our body, but also where it's come from the ancients in your part of the world, in the Indus Valley, but explaining it in a very practical way to the average viewer can understand. So if you're someone that's massively overweight and you don't have a fitness background, and you're struggling with obesity and type 2 diabetes, the first thing I tell people is like, let's start drinking water, let's start walking around the block, and we're going to do breath work. Because the more diaphragmatic breathing we can exercise, the stronger your core is going to be, the better your body is going to start behaving and operating. And when we're not breathing through our nose correctly, everything is off. Nothing else really matters. And we're going to struggle in a variety of ways. So breath work has so many facets. You can get high literally off of breath work if you're doing holotropic breathing, tumo breathing, shamanic breathing, or it can be a tool to calm yourself down through box breathing and the physiological side. So there's plenty of different modalities. So say the advantage of breath work is cultivating a higher level of self-awareness. It is sitting with yourself for just a few minutes and understanding how the breath is making you feel. And then that goes into meditation. I mean, meditation scares a lot of people in the West not because it's hard. All you're doing is sitting with your eyes closed and you're breathing. That's it. When you say that phrase out loud, you can't do that. You don't have to be sitting in a cave in the Himalayas. You don't have to be in full lotus. It can just be sitting on your couch, being calm and focus on your breath. That is it. And meditation, I think there's a lot of people, what they get wrong about meditation and breath work is this. It is not about that 20 minutes of your meditating. It is about the other 23 hours and 40 minutes when you're not meditating. It's not about achieving some altered state. It is about how you respond to the rest of your life when you're not practicing. So that's the first thing. It's that we feel we're supposed to achieve something. And it's like, no, it's being present. It is acknowledging your thoughts. You can't turn your thoughts off. That's how your brain works. By turning your thoughts off, you're automatically thinking. You're going to have thoughts. Acknowledge them and then just push them away and let them out. And then you're going to cultivate this level of Oh, that's there. Oh, I need to address this. But just sitting with yourself, that's all you're doing. That's all you're doing. The Dalai Lama has been practicing meditation supposedly for 4 hours a day, 3 hours in the morning, 1 hour in the afternoon for 50 years. And even to this day, when he's interviewed, people ask him about his meditation practice. He will always say the same thing: I struggle daily. And this is one of the most enlightened individuals that has ever lived. And he is acknowledging that he struggles daily. So it is about just being in that moment and self-awareness. And whatever is there, it's not about being Zen. It's about practicing outside of it. So the advantages of all of those practices, journaling as well, it's going back to one of the principles of yoga. I believe it was BKS Iyengar that said this, but I could be wrong. Yoga is about finding yourself, for yourself, through yourself. That's it. It's not to make yourself better than anyone else. It is about to make yourself better than who you were yesterday. That's it. That is it. And regardless of what you define as better, doesn't have to be the title or the money or the status or 1 million followers on Instagram. It is, are you happy and content right now with what you have? If that's the case, then you're doing well in life.
And most people are afraid of their own thoughts, and that's why it's very difficult to meditate or to watch your own thoughts, like what's going on here, like what's going on here in your heart, in your mind, what's going on. And that's why they fear a lot, and that's why I sometimes I am not able to do meditation as well. And that happens. Also, one more thing is that, have you been into the 10 days Vipassana course?
I have
Okay.
not yet. I have not. I will be shocked if I never get there to do that. I know that's on my list. That's part of my path. I'm sure that I will at some point, but I haven't yet. It just, our wife and I have 2 kids, and they're 16 and almost 13, and we have our careers here, and we've been. I'm just not there yet. I'm not in a position to where it'll happen, and it'll organically happen on its own. But no, it's something that I'm looking forward to a lot. I
You
would.
must, because I had that experience last year, and it was
Nice.
it was amazing. You will feel
Yeah.
great after that, and in that 10 days also you will feel much calmer. You will feel something, you are on some different planet you are on. So you will feel great
I
there.
believe it.
Yeah,
That's awesome. I'm happy for you that you were able to experience that. That's cool.
yeah. It's kind of a great practice, and you will love it.
I believe it. I have no doubt. I have no doubt. It's one of those, like, when I'm ready, I'll know it, and I'll partake in it.
Yeah. One more question I have is that, why do you think this generation of ours, like the 20s, are so much emotionally imbalanced? Like, we have so much kind of a depression is the word, or anxieties, and why we have so much of emotional imbalance in ourselves?
It's what an interesting question, right? And I agree with you. I agree. Um, and I don't think it's just your generation. I think it's my generation as well, and then my parents' generation. But to go back to the point of your question about your generation, people in their 20s, this, and I want to be careful how I say this, because I do not, I think when we go down this rabbit hole and we discuss this, that people tend to describe it as a negative, or we perceive it as a negative. Okay. And I don't think that's the case. So to answer your question, in my opinion, and I don't know if I'm qualified to even answer this, but this is my perception, is that your generation, and now your generation is probably the first one in which you grew up, in terms of once your adolescence started and your personality was developing, your awareness was being developed, you were the first generation that social media and internet and 24-hour news cycles were ubiquitous.
Mhm.
And this is, I think, key to note here, is that you were not born on it, but it was started to be conditioned in you as you were formulating your personality. My children's generation, I think, is the first to where they were born with it. So their generation, you know, 15, 20 years from now, we're going to see my children's generation grow up, and we're going to see a radically different society in terms of relationships and communication. So a great example of this is if I need to get a hold of my daughter who's 12, I can't text her. She won't respond to a text message. I have to Snapchat her. I literally am on Snapchat for one singular reason. It is so I can communicate with my daughter. And it's not calling her on her phone. It is not texting her on her phone. It is through Snapchat. I have one friend. It is my daughter. I will not accept a friend request on Snapchat because I literally only use it to communicate with her. That is it. So to me, my generation right now is like, why would you call someone? Just text. Your generation is probably a combination of apps, text, and social media. My children's generation, it is like text message is like a phone call. It's like, why would you text me? You're right. So it's through an app. So try to answer your question. Your generation has been indoctrinated into this at the most formative years of your life in terms of personality and cognition and awareness. And I feel that this is now all of us struggle with this. My generation, my parents, my grandparents' generation is that because of 24/7 news cycle, because of social media, and this is the danger, right? And this is what we've talked about in the beginning, but it's not always dangerous. And because of technology, we have so much information at our fingertips and we are overwhelmed. And when we don't have practices like yoga, meditation, breathwork, Tai Chi, Ayurveda, anything, we don't have the bandwidth. We can't understand. We don't have the ability, most people don't have the ability to process everything in an efficient manner and then ascertain what's real and what's not. So if you think about it, I grew up having to read about the civil rights movement here in the US to where African Americans could not go to school with white people. This is 60 years ago. This is in my parents' lifetime. I cannot understand that you would not be able to go to school with me because you are not white. I cannot contemplate that. But I read about it. Now, all of these major societal changes, we talked about the Uyghur Muslims in China and the refugee situation in Bangladesh, and then, the civil war in Syria, and now what is happening in Ukraine and Russia. We don't have to read about anything after it's happened to learn. We're all learning it in real time as it's happening. We have every single piece of information that has ever existed at our fingertips, and we can access it. We don't have to go to school and read a book. It is all here. Right now, we can figure out what's happening in Ukraine, what's happening in China, what's happening in the US with the election, and everything all at once. And we don't have the bandwidth to process it. And because of that, we're overwhelmed. And we get overwhelmed and then we can shut down. And it's like, oh my God, what do I do? And then we just stick on the internet and we're on Snapchat with our friends, or we're following TikTok and trying to dance. And it's like a way of almost, instead of drugs and alcohol for some, we're coping by being depressed or ignoring it or not interacting with people. So I feel that's why we see this kind of societal shift. And people in my generation and older will talk about how the young kids are ruining America and we don't want to work hard. And it's like, no. This is society evolving. This is how we progress. It's a new technology. So rather than running from it or banning it or blocking it, we need to embrace it and we need to learn how to harness it. And it's like, you shouldn't be on social media, or you can choose to utilize it correctly and utilize it as a tool. Like, I'm learning things from you being on a podcast halfway around the world, right? And we're sharing knowledge. This is what we should be doing versus, and if you're depressed, then seek help. Have a friend. There's a therapist. There's a yoga teacher. Maybe it's mom and dad. And it's, I think if that answers your question, your generation has just been grown up into this, and we're struggling just to navigate through it because there's so much. So that's where I think the practice of yoga or meditation or breath work can come into play. Will help us kind of center ourselves into, get us more into a calming state, and we can then hopefully compartmentalize certain aspects. And it's like we don't always have to be here. We can just be right here.
Yeah, because I think because we are too overwhelmed, so that because of that, we are not able to process our thoughts because there are so many thoughts. We are scrolling reels, we are thinking that what others are doing and everything, and everything is happening. So much is happening. We are overloaded with information as well, and because of that, we are so much confused. Maybe that's why we are thinking like we are we are we are going through too many paths. I think that's the reason, because we are not able to decide one path. There is no clarity. Maybe that can be the reason we being anxious more than the other generation, maybe. Right?
You're spot on. You're spot on. Yep, you're exactly right. You're exactly right. And you're in your position, you're probably better to answer that question because you're in it,
Yeah.
right? And this is just me looking on the outside, but I don't feel it's just your generation. It's the generation, my children that are younger than you, but then it's my generation and
Wow.
it's older generation too. So we are just experiencing the progression and the evolution in real time versus, oh, like we read about, like in India, reading about Gandhi and what he did and ending the British rule, right?
Mhm.
Ending it versus now, if that same thing were happening, we're living in it in real time. You get to hear about it. You don't have to read about afterwards, because then we think it's like, oh, it was one day and it happened. Like, no, 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 it was decades of struggle and protests and fighting for freedom and individuality versus us thinking like, oh, we read about it, it happened in like an hour, then they were good. Like, no, this took years, and now we're experiencing like COVID. Like we're gonna 30 years from now, you're gonna look back and be like, oh, COVID was a thing. Like it's 3 years in. We're experiencing it in real time. We don't have to read about it afterwards. So now we're experiencing history each second because of the information that's available to us versus having to read about it.
That's true. And I have a very interesting question that I ask everyone I meet, because
Sure.
it's the kind of question that I need an answer of. So the question is like, why do you think this world exists? Like, do you have any perspective on that? Like, why this world exists? Why we are here? What we are doing? And why this whole universe and everything is here? Like, why? Why?
What a fascinating question.
I,
Um,
I
I'll
like
try to give you
thought about
my, I'll give you my experience anecdotally, but I'll answer the question the way I feel it should be answered, and also what I really believe. I have no idea,
it.
and I know that I am not qualified to answer that, at least where it would make sense. And also, I don't think anyone is. But I'm going to contradict myself and try to answer it.
Yeah, that's what I want.
My experience, born and raised in Omaha, Nebraska, in the U.S., born and raised in the Catholic Church,
Mhm.
right? So it's Jesus Christ, and He died for your sins, and you're a good person, you go to heaven. If you're a bad person, you burn in hell, right? And marriage is between a man and a woman, right? And all other religions are terrible, right? And it's like in, the billion Hindus and the billion Buddhists and the billion Muslims, like they're all wrong, right? And I would say in this high school to college transition that I went through when I was young, I started to go, well, that doesn't really make sense. And anytime you ask the question, no one could give you an answer that at least made sense, right? And then I would say at some point I went all the way into the other realm where I became an atheist. And
Mhm.
it was like, no, no, I don't believe in any God. And if you believe in any God, you're stupid. Like, of course there's no God. Like, that's dumb. Like, of course, like, and it's just ignorance. And we all have to create these things because we have to have what Yuval Noah Harari talks about is an imagined order to keep us organized and to keep us safe. And there's, I think, good intention. And religion has a role. And for anyone listening to this, like, allow me to finish this. Religion is not bad. If religion has helped you and saved you, Good for you. Believe anything that you want to believe. You can worship the devil. I don't care. Do what you want, whatever gives you contentment and peace. And every religion has contributed negatively to society, I believe, and every religion has helped people positively. And one of the biggest misconceptions about yoga, right? It's not a religion. It's not a religion. It's a philosophy. It's a practice, right? And this is where I feel Buddhism is so interesting because, you know, it's classified as a religion, but anyone that practices Buddhism knows, no, you do not worship the Buddha.
Yeah.
You worship yourself, right? And it's about self-transcendence and being the best version of yourself. And no one believes, well, at least if you're a practicing Buddhist or know the history of Buddhism, no one believes that the Buddha was immortal. Everyone knows he was a man who was a prince, left the box, literally the walls, right? And became enlightened and found his own journey and practice and was mortal and died. He was not called the Buddha until years after his death. So I got into that realm of all religion is stupid and it's evil and it's terrible. Now, when intolerance and lack of compassion and genocide is done in the name of a religion, then absolutely it's hurtful and terrible, right? Hence the Holocaust, you know, in the 40s in Europe with Jews. So, but now I've kind of gone back again for a different shift. And now I'm definitely much more in the spiritual realm of there is something out there that is such a higher power and such a level of complexity that every person that has ever lived in humanity and will ever live currently combined, we do not have the brain capacity or the consciousness awareness to understand what it is. And I think what we do as humans is try to put a label on things and ascribe certain things so we can attempt to understand it. And some of this is just, we're not supposed to understand it. Maybe we're not supposed to figure it out. Maybe your religion is the right one. Maybe mine's the right one. Maybe none of them are right. Maybe all of them are right. Maybe it's not religion. Maybe we are in a computer simulation and this is all part of it and we're in a fishbowl and people are watching, right? I think there is such a level of complexity in the universe with the prana, the energy, the consciousness, with the stars and the ancients and the astrology and all these civilizations that have been buried in the past, to where there is something out there that is in control. And that doesn't mean manipulative. It doesn't mean our fate and destinies are written. It's such a higher power that we can't understand. And we probably, at least in our lifetimes, never will understand. And I think that's what's beautiful, is that we're not supposed to. You can try. You can, again, if you're a practicing Hindu, you do what you need to. Worship Shiva, worship Shakti. If you're Buddhist, practice yourself. If you are a Muslim, you do what you need to for you and Muhammad. And if you're if Christian and you worship Jesus, do what you have to. No judgment on anyone. So I feel the religion and spirituality, it's all synonymous. God, karma, universe, source, power, love, spirit, Allah, Buddha, Shiva, Shakti, it's all the same. It's all the same. They're just all in this bubble of synonyms, and we're just choosing to describe it and view it differently, versus just allowing in everything that is inside to manifest into what you need. So I have no idea if that answers your question, but that's how I am currently viewing it.
Thank you so much for answering that question. It gives a perspective to me. And I also believe the same, that every God is one. There is only one God, and that the humans have just partitioned every kind of religion, like this is your God, this is your God, this is your God. But I think
Yep.
there is only one God, and who have created us maybe, and that is just one thing that we believe on. Right.
Yeah, and you're right. There is one God. And here's how I choose to describe this further. You're God.
Yeah.
I'm God. Everyone's God, and
Yeah.
everything is God,
Mhm.
and everyone is God, and then nothing is God. We are all everything and nothing all at the same time.
Yeah.
at the same time.
Yeah.
And it's like, to someone who is devout, if you're a Christian, what happens if you die and nothing happens? Well, then you have nothing to worry about. Or what happens if you die and you do
Oh, yeah.
meet God and you're judged? Then you have nothing to worry about, right?
There is
Or what
God.
happens, right? Or what happens if you die and you are reincarnated and you lived a terrible life and your karma is now you're a lower caste? Or what if you are, oh, what if you're Brahmin, right? Like, oh, what if your karma was so good that now you're at a different level? Then you have nothing to worry about. Or if you just go to sleep and never wake up again, then you have nothing to worry about. So it's like you're God, I'm God, everything's God, nothing is God. We're all the same and nothing at the same time. And to me, I feel when you can get to that part of your spirituality, regardless of what your spirituality means, meaning spirituality or religion,
Mhm.
life can get so simple. No one knows what we're doing. We're just figuring this out as we go along, spirituality included.
Yeah, that's the beauty, I think, of this world. That's that's beautiful. And now I just have one final question. What's the biggest takeaway you want to give to the listeners? Just one thing that they should take away from this whole podcast, one learning, one
Mm,
lesson, something that will transform their life, or something, a habit or something that will really genuinely help them.
sure. Um, I would say to try new things and then listen, meaning it doesn't have to be yoga. It doesn't have to be some spiritual practice. You can find that donating your time at a homeless shelter gives you meaning and it has helped you. It can be walking dogs for people gives you meaning. It can be talking to people as a therapist can give you meaning. It doesn't have to be some transcendent practice, yoga, Christianity, Islam, Buddhism, Hinduism, or Tai Chi. It could just be try something new and keep trying new things and listen to how your body and your mind and your soul feels in terms of a practice. And if there is one thing, it would be have the courage to be vulnerable. And that means giving praise to people that you are grateful for. It can be if you have a person in your life that has radically changed you, have you told them that? And not in a text message, not in a letter. Have you looked them in the eye face to face and told them? That's hard for many people because you get emotional and we shy away from our emotions.
Mhm.
Have you shared the things that you need to share that are bothering you with that person? Um, Maybe, and this is where I struggled with my whole life, receiving praise. Someone giving me a compliment and not dismissing it, understanding that I am worthy and valid, and it's validating of their praise to me. Um, so I think finding that practice that gives you meaning of whatever it is can help you lead down that path of vulnerability. And then when you can become vulnerable, the doors start opening up and your life can begin.
Yeah, that's so amazing that, and learning new things is the way to become or transform yourself. So that is such a huge takeaway, that learn new things and be vulnerable.
Totally.
Yeah, awesome. Thank you so much for being on this podcast. I really enjoyed it, and your answers were really amazing. That gave me a perspective, and I hope you felt the same. You felt great on this podcast. You felt something new, something amazing. How was your experience?
It was great. No, it's my honor. It's my honor. It's my privilege. I'm so humble that you chose to have me on here. So I'm grateful for the opportunity to talk about the book and to promote. And I'm a firm believer that conversations will change the world. And it just starts with one at a time. And it's usually conversations in this context. You are a younger female. I'm an older white male. You are in India. I'm in the US. This is how this works. And this is how we should change. This is how we evolve. So I'm honored. It was an awesome experience. Thank you.
Yeah. Also, one more question I have is that what are your top three books that you will recommend to everyone? Like they must read it.
No problem. I already have them. These are my, if I could be God, I would make everyone read these books. Number
Okay.
one, Man's Search for Meaning by Viktor Frankl.
Mm-hmm.
If you don't cry at that book, I would question your humanity. And it would put everything into perspective. If someone can find meaning in the Holocaust, anyone can find meaning. Two, I Don't Want to Talk About It by Terrence Real.
I haven't read.
Unbelievable book. First book I read where I cried at. It's The Secret Legacy of Male Depression. And then the third book would be The Body Keeps the Score by Bessel van der Kolk, about how unresolved trauma can be stored in our bodies, into the fascia, into the organs, and how it will manifest into not only injury, but disease when never dealt with. And all of those are intense, profound, hard reads because of if you're an emotional person or vulnerable, but that is exactly why you should read them. You should read them because they're hard and should challenge your perspective and your emotional state.
Awesome. I'll read the last two because I have read the Man's Search for Meaning and
Good.
I'll read the. Thank you so much for sharing that, and thank you again for being on the podcast. And I hope to see you again on this podcast after some time.
I'd love to. I would come back anytime.
Okay, awesome. That's amazing. Thank you so much.
Thank you.